This is the Labor Forum here on WRFG 89.3 FM. I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning that I'm a retired UAW member and that Paul is with the Transit Workers Union, and that our guest is also a labor activist and union member. And we will move right into our next segment. But before I do that, I have to say, we're so excited. WRFG, the Labor Forum, also has its own website now. And that's where you can go see all our videos and get all the links and all our stuff. We're just all social media crazy at the moment. We got Twitter, we got all kinds of stuff. And that is because we truly, truly want to make sure that we are able to reach as many working class folks and their families and their communities as possible, because we think we are really providing some good information on this program, and we also know that WRFG is the greatest place for all the music that you will never hear on corporate-owned radio. So, Paul's going to introduce Ayanna, and we're going to go into our next interview.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Ayanna, could you start by letting our listeners know how you got involved with the labor movement and what you currently do?
Yeah, sure. I got involved with the labor movement at a really young age. My father was the first black president of his local union here at a company called Anaconda Armalite. Used to be up on Fulton Industrial, and I think they were finally bought out by Lockheed or something like that. But I've been writing like grievances, been on picket lines, and doing different kind of activities since I was about 10. I went to work for school bus driving in Gwinnett County, and then I came to MARTA and was a member of ATU, Local 732 here.
And I knew your father at ATU.
Yes.
At MARTA.
Everyone knows my dad. Sometimes I'm not sure if that's good or bad. But no, it's really been good as far as my labor movement is concerned. I was on the executive board. I was a steward for ATU, and now, because of the experiences I had there, I was able to move into the job with the Atlanta CLC as office manager, and now I am the coordinator for the Young Workers Program there.
Okay, so we want to get...
Impressive. And how old are you?
40. I just turned 40 about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So we want to
She
get
looks
into...
about 25.
We want to get into some of the issues that are affecting young workers today. And so, in terms of employment, what are some of the facts?
Okay, well, I do a lot of research and stuff like so. I'll just give you what I found out. In the past 5 to 10 years, youth unemployment has risen in most countries. Here in America, it's about 18% for workers under 25. For young black workers who make up 15% of the under 25s, they suffer from a rate of about 31%, and it's risen as high as 47%.
And we saw in Baltimore how high the unemployment
Yeah.
rate, and I'm sure that was a lot of young people too.
Yeah, I'm sure. And as far as whites go in the same category, it sits around 24%. Youth unemployment leaves what's called a wage scar. It moves on into middle age, and it persists throughout your lifetime, which is the longer the period of unemployment, the bigger the effect of unemployment. After a period of unemployment, the temptation to take any work at all can be super strong. Young people unemployed for a long time were channeled into non-regular jobs where pay was low and opportunities for training and career progression was at a very minimum. And while they're in those kind of dead-end, what we call dead-end jobs, the employers start to look for fresh, new, graduates from either high school or college or whatever, and the ones who were there available in the workforce who took the dead-end jobs get overlooked. I mean, that has a lasting effect. I mean, from everywhere, not just from in an economic sense, but mentally.
Psychologically.
It affects people, and it's even led, the suicide rates, the health problems, and depression, all those things rose with a lot of the young workers who were kind of left out there with no way to, they have no way to survive at this point. You tell them, go get an education, take out this humongous student loan, and we're going to take care of you. And when they graduate, a lot of them are left with student loan debt and no job to pay it.
The other thing, as a person now who's retired and on Social Security, your Social Security benefit, assuming it's still in existence when people of this generation, the Millennial generation, get to that point will be impacted tremendously by having not ever been able to contribute during a decade or even longer of their work life.
Yeah, I mean, a huge chunk of their benefits will be gone because they weren't given an opportunity to pay into those benefits.
Could you say a little more about the student debt
Yes.
issue? Because
Yes, I
we
can.
know, we hear a lot about that.
Yeah, as a, and I use this term loosely, as a victim of student debt, for me, I'm raising two kids who are now in the whole vicious circle of student loan debt. I have two kids in college, and not too long ago, I just filled out the FAFSA and the do your income tax and all these things that you have to do to get the money to go to school. And then now I'm out of school and I'm trying to make sure that they get theirs while I'm still paying mine. And we're talking about 20 years ago, just about 20 years ago when I came out. So one of the things that they're finding now is many of the the graduates are saying that they don't have the ability to buy necessities because they're so worried about paying this student loan or being garnished or having something put on you because you're not able to pay it. They're starting families later. They're unable to buy cars, buy houses, and the want to further education is kind of starting to dial back because now you've got to make a decision. Do I want to go further and try to educate myself more to get a better job, or is that going to cost me more in the long run? Is it really worth the trouble? Is it really worth it? Am I doing something that's going to benefit me? You think so in the forefront, but then in the back end, it just seems like such a burden to try to pay back those loans. I mean, people are even getting married at later ages. They're raised to starting families later. Things that should be so simple to just say, oh, I love him, I'm going to do this, or I love her, I'm going to do that. Now you got to weigh, am I going to pay my student loan or am I going to get married? It's absolutely absurd to me. I find that it's just heartbreaking.
I have a question really about, and I guess it's a sort of a big philosophical question, and it's what the concept of work even will mean to the next generations, because the fact that so many jobs have disappeared, either because they have been technology has gotten rid of them, or because corporations have moved so many manufacturing jobs to countries where the wages are even lower, the environmental protections are even more lax, et cetera, so that there's just too many people, let's just say, there's too many people who need a decent job and there's too few decent jobs. So I'm wondering, even the concept, I think we should be thinking about the whole different way of thinking about work. I'm thinking, why does a person have to work 40 hours a week? Why can't a person work 10 or 20 hours a week and then you double the number of jobs? Or why is it that the things that are not considered worthy of being a job, like cleaning up environmental issues, planting food. I mean, I'm thinking of all these things, playgrounds, being a playground, a childcare person. I mean, all these things that either this society won't pay a living wage for, or where so many workers work so many long hours that they never see their families and their own health. And why aren't we figuring out a way to divvy all those jobs up and divide it around?
I think that's more, to me, that's more of a structural change. I mean, you've got to fix the system, in a sense, to make those things important enough to become paid jobs. I mean, just like the whole environmental piece. Maybe 25, 30 years ago, there were not as many bio plants or people as interested in alternative forms of gas or food or ethanol or whatever it may be. I think that that's more of a system change that I agree should happen. Those should be paid jobs, instead of having them where the prisoners are doing the work for slave labor, but different subject. I think, I agree with you, but I think it's going to take more of a social structural change before they become the jobs that people will pay to have done. I think they should be, but will they? But I guess we can make that change just like we've changed the world, you know, on so many different occasions, on so many big issues. I think that if that issue is taken up, and I think that labor should start, well, not start, but should continue to push, you know, for more of the green job. You know, there used to be something called the Blue-Green Alliance or something.
We've had them on the air.
Right, so I think those things might need to come back to the to the forefront, but they need to be pushed. Somebody needs to take that fight up. And I think, you know, bringing it full circle to the young worker groups, those are some of the things that, you know, around the country I've seen. We just had the Next Up Summit in Chicago, was March the 18th through the 22nd, and we talked about everything from environmental pieces to the new Jim Crow to LGBTQ issues to women to Latino, whatever the issue you could think of. Young workers are affected by it because we're coming into this time where there has to be a bridging of the gap. You have a lot of the veteran, you know, as yourselves, the veteran laborers who are moving out of the movement, not to sit down forever, but they've passed the torch. And if we don't do something significant to take it up and keep it moving, then, I mean, there's already a major decline in the labor movement. We don't want to see it fizzle out and die. I think that's where the young workers have to really start to move forward and become more aware of what's affecting them on a daily basis.
Could you say a little more about the conference and what the AFL-CIO is trying to do?
Yes. The AFL-CIO, I think it was in 2013, they even passed a resolution. It's Resolution 19. I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. It was Resolution 19. And they want to recognize the critical importance of young workers to the future of the labor movement and the necessity of building young worker groups throughout the nation and globally. Because it's not just a problem here. You know, like you said earlier in your labor notes and what you spoke about, these things are happening not just here, but people all over the world are dealing with these issues. They're doing it by forming young worker groups throughout the labor movement in local unions, in the CLCs, and the state feds. They partner with community groups and businesses to bring awareness to the major issues that are affecting the movement and young workers as a whole. And the Young Workers Advisory Council is a group of leaders who are members of affiliated unions with the AFL-CIO, 35 and under, who basically sit and act as representatives of the young workers and the young worker groups in totality. They sit on the general board. They make reports to the executive council. So Liz Schuler has taken this on as a major